One cheeseburger, one Pepsi, one cheap.
Cheeseburger.
Pepsi, cheap.
Hi there, and welcome to Baseball by Design. I am SportsLogos.net minor league baseball correspondent Paul Caputo, broadcasting live, as always, from the Sunday Helmet Hall of Fame in my basement in Fort Collins, Colorado. Today, we are going to be talking about the Hub City Spartanburgers just days after the franchise debut, the brand new Hub City Spartanburgers, who play in Spartanburg, South Carolina. They're the High A affiliate of the Texas Rangers. Later on in this episode, I will be speaking with Dan Simon of Studio Simon, who created the logo for the Hub City Spartanburgers, and I will be speaking with Steve from the Beacon Drive-In Restaurant, the famous hamburger joint in Spartanburg that contributed to the reasoning behind this brand. And then, of course, Dan Simon will be back with one of his Studio Simon Stumpers. Right now, I am so pleased to have on the podcast Tyson Jeffers, who is the general manager for the Hub City Spartanburgers. Tyson, good morning. How you doing?
Morning, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I said good morning. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon for you. It's just afternoon for me. Just old habits die hard, I guess.
I wanted to be respectful. I repeated it, even though I'm sitting here in the afternoon.
You rolled with it. You're a pro. I can tell already. But hey, we're talking about hamburgers, so it's got to be lunchtime here. So I think that's going to be an important part of the this. This is going to be one of those brands that makes me hungry by the time I'm through talking about it. In your words, Tyson, the Hub City Spartanburgers. What is Hub City? What's a Spartanburger?
Yeah, you nailed it with it. It truly is two parts. So you have the Hub City portion, which is the primary nickname for Spartanburg, South Carolina. It was nicknamed the Hub City because of the rail lines that run straight into the heart of downtown. It was a major hub of the rail industry for many, many years. And the reason for that is because of the mills that exist in and around the Spartanburg area. And so it was a train hub, both for transportation of people, but also transportation of goods. And that name stuck. So when we started to look at the names and wondering, should it be Spartanburg? Should it be Hub City? There's another nickname for Sparkle City, which has to do with the Sparkle Tones, which was a band back in a swing band back in the 50s, I believe. And that was on the Johnny Carson show and had a pretty good run from a music career. But we went with Hub City. We felt that it gave some pretty good legs to our ability to create a personality around the train themed, the railroad, and incorporate that not only into our brand, but into the facility that we're creating right now. And then the other piece of that, the Spartan Burgers, if you add a couple letters to the name of the town, like how can you not? And it creates a burger. How can you not do that? That it's just so minor league to add the ERS to the end of Spartanburg. And I like to say that we're probably one of the only teams out there that both have the nickname of their city as well as the city's name within their name. So we played on that, added the ers to the end of Spartanburg, and you get the burger character that we represent a lot throughout our brands. So as you said, with the burgers and talking about food, we are a food identity. Food identities have emerged as a very popular identity for minor league baseball teams and other minor league sports teams out there. A lot of them doing them more on the one-off scale, us this being our primary brand. But yes, it will make people hungry. And we better have good freaking burgers at the ballpark or we're going to get crucified.
So not counting teams that play as animals that you could eat. So like the Blue Wahoos, right? Like I don't count the Blue Wahoos as a food identity. I'm trying to think of, what are the other permanent identities that are food based? And I'm coming up right now with the Montgomery biscuits, I guess. And I'm just thinking about affiliated because independent, there's, it's too many to think of. Can you think of, are there any others that are the permanent food-based brands?
Someone's going to text me when this comes out and be like, I can't believe you forgot about us. The most popular one, and it is not affiliated baseball, is the Bananas. I think that's the one that everyone thinks of when you say, hey, baseball food identity, name one. Most people nowadays are going to say the bananas.
Another Dan Simon creation, and we'll of course get to Dan later on in this episode. The brand is fairly expansive when it comes to things associated with burgers. You've got the anthropomorphic burger character, and he's wearing an engineer's hat, and I think that gets to what you were saying with Hub City. Before we get into the other brands, I'll ask you that question just to confirm. The engineer's hat that the anthropomorphic hamburger character is wearing, train engineer hat?
Train engineer hat tied directly into the Hub City. We do have a version of him wearing a baseball cap that has the Spartanburg S on it as well. So utilize both of those interchangeably, kind of both one in the marketing aspects as well as the merchandise.
You also have a spatula character. You don't see a lot of kitchen utensils used as logos, but that's another fun one there. He's the one doing the flipping of the burger. What was the thinking in creating a logo around the instrument of creating a hamburger?
Yeah, well, his name is Flip, so we call him Flip the spatula. The burger, his name is Chuck, like ground chuck.
Of
So
course.
we're leaning in a little bit and having some fun. But yeah, I think that was in conversation with Dan. I mean, Dan wanted to expand beyond just the burger itself. And I know you're going to get to this, but we do have a little pickle chip character that we call Chip. And so those are kind of the three amigos that make up our marketing, our brand, and our style. And that helps us hit on the different, call them demographics of fans that we could attract. Obviously, the burger is something that we believe that everyone can accept, and everyone knows a Charles or a Chuck. You know, everyone's got a Chuck buddy, so that's why we leaned into that. But with Flip, he will have a personality of a little sassy and to be able to come back at you. So we'll use him in social media when we might have to poke at people, or if there's any haters or trolls out there, we'll use Flip's voice to get back at them. And then Chip, being a kid character, we're using him for a lot of the kid friendly type stuff. So our kid zone and other kids groups that we might create over time. But we have a personality and an idea for each one, and that idea from Dan allows us to expand beyond just the line of product for Chuck, but you have other merchandise that you can roll out for the other characters, as well as create those personalities and incorporate them into our in-game experience as well.
I know that pickles can be a divisive food item to add to sandwiches, burgers. I will put pickles on pretty much anything. I'm a huge fan, especially dill pickles. Is Chip a dill pickle or a bread and butter pickle?
Chip is whatever pickle you want him to be. So we rolled out some pickle scented shirts that have Chip on the front of it, and if you smell that, it smells like a dill pickle. So I think he is a dill pickle.
That answers that question. Well, you beat me to the punch on the fact that you have a pickle-based logo. It is, like you say, it's a chip. It's a slice of pickle. I feel like that is really giving the pickle as hamburger additive the due it deserves, because I just think a cheeseburger is just not a cheeseburger unless it's got pickles on it. At least three. I would go as many as five. So
Oh wow, we're getting into numbers of pickles.
well, how many
You
slices of
count your
pickles do you
pickles
put on a
up?
burger?
I would say a minimum of two. If I'm getting one, I feel like I'm shorted. Two provides enough coverage. You get at least a couple bites of pickle in there. But
Yeah.
three, I can understand. Now that we're talking about it, I get it. I'm starting to feel it out.
Okay, good. Yeah, and, five might be a little over the top. Depends on how thick the burger is, I guess. You do have
Yeah.
another one that I really enjoy, and it's a little bit different. It's a little bit sort of distinct from these other character-based logos. We have two that are distinct from these character-based logos. The one that I'm looking at that I really like and could absolutely be like the logo for a restaurant is this one where it's like it's a hamburger bun, but the top of the bun is a baseball cap, and then the words Spartan Burgers make up like a double patty cheeseburger looking thing here. It's a little bit different. It's a little bit outside the visual aesthetic of the other brands. How was that logo used, and what was the thinking in having that quite different logo from the rest of the set?
Yeah, as Dan and I were talking about it, I mean, we wanted to create avenues and pathways for utilization of these logos in various ways. And I think in the creation, you obviously don't know every way that you're going to use it. You have some ideas. And as we talked about it, obviously merchandise is a major piece of some of this, but also how are we incorporating this into our ballpark as we're building Fifth Third Park and incorporating it into that experience. And it just, like you said, you look at that and you think restaurant. And so tying that into our food and beverage experience in the ballpark is going to be a key element of that logo. So if you came to a game in Spartanburg, you're probably going to see that next to our food and beverage points of sale throughout the ballpark, both the portables as well as the marketplaces that we're going to create. We will have a specialty burger marketplace that you can go and get an unbelievable burger, a very high quality burger that you probably not expect to get at a ballpark. And that will be right alongside that. So you'll see that in the ballpark. You'll see that on t-shirts and other merchandise. But yeah, part of it all was how can we make sure we're hitting on the different layers of the brand overall, and that being food, restaurant, diner. If that's what came to your mind when you saw that, then Dan achieved his goal of hitting that.
I would absolutely trust a cheeseburger from a place with a logo like that. That is 100% a place that I would go. You have the state outline of South Carolina with the letters HC because it's minor league baseball and that's the law. You've got to have the state outline, like we're the team of this state. What was the thinking in having the South Carolina logo as well?
Yeah, we wanted to have things that could truly be represented on the field and make sure that there were opportunities on field that might not be, call it as minor league, that are burger character, flip, chip, some of the other logos might represent. We have those incorporated into our jerseys and on field hats and other things, but we wanted to have more of a traditional line of branding that we could utilize. And when you talk to the Rangers player development guys, the coaching staff that we have, a lot of them have said that one is their favorite one
Hmm.
because it is a little bit more traditional in the form of baseball and something that they all think and know represents the town, the city that they're representing, which is Hub City and Spartanburg. And part of that logo, it's got the star on Spartanburg. So it's truly kind of representing who we are in the form of that logo. And it is a little bit, I look at it as like, call it clean.
Hmm.
It's very simplified. It's clean. You're going to have people that are like, I will never wear a burger or a hat,
Yeah.
but wear that logo. So it helps to differentiate items for people to still represent the Hub City Spartanburgers in a different way.
Yeah, certainly a different aesthetic visually and a more classic sort of baseball feeling and less about the character-based logo sets that you have. The primary logo, we haven't even talked about the primary logo, has this sort of neon arrow sign in it, and that neon arrow shows up in another one of the ancillary logos here. My understanding is, not having been to Spartanburg, South Carolina, that is a reference to a specific burger joint. Is that the case?
There are multiple, I would say, famous burger places in the Spartanburg area. So there's two of them. They both have their own unique signage. One of them is the Beacon Drive-In, which has been featured on all of when you think of the travel food shows.
Mhm.
I believe all of those hosts have stopped in and had a Beacon burger. And there's another one called Sugar and Spice. And both of those have their own version of that old school arrow neon diner sign. And so it's kind of a tie between the two to show the representation of like, yes, we did add a couple letters to Spartanburg and it created Spartanburgers, but there truly is a food element to this that exists within the community of Spartanburg. And there's some iconic places that are recognizable within, call them the foodie community, of having burgers that would truly represent the region and this part of the upstate, and staples that if you were really looking, hey, I'm doing a road trip and I'm going to stop at all the best burger places, you're probably putting this on your list if you're in the South Carolina, North Carolina region.
Now you're in that area and you've got burger-based logos on all the things that you own. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite burger joint in Spartanburg?
I cannot say. The best burger that's going to exist is going to exist at Fifth Third Park. How's that?
Wow. All right. All right. Will you have a 5/3 pound burger?
We might.
Yeah,
That would it might get expensive.
I would think so. Yes. So this, obviously you all are a single A affiliate of the Texas Rangers. Your predecessor in this town of Spartanburg was another franchise, a collegiate summer level franchise, I believe, that was also called the Spartanburgers. And so I know that that was part of the conversation, whether to use that identity. And I know that you all had conversations with that team that existed beforehand. How much of a factor was that in deciding whether to go with this, this really fun brand? The brand ultimately is completely different, but there was a Spartan Burger. They weren't the Hub City Spartanburgers; they were just the Spartan Burgers. How much of a conversation was that?
Yeah, I think you always have to give credit where it's due when people come up with creative and unique ideas that may not get the light and the spotlight that it truly deserves, or the legs that it truly deserves. Like the lifespan of that would have, if we wouldn't have resurrected it in the way that we did, it would just never exist again, right? So we looked at it and analyzed that a little bit as we were starting to build the options of a brand and identity, and said, like, hasn't been done before? Yes. Do we feel that we could resurrect it and bring it to another level and make sure that it gets the limelight that it deserves and the attention that it deserves, both not only locally, which everyone's known about, but really expand beyond that and become more of a national brand for minor league baseball. And we felt that we could do that. And with the help of Dan and the creation of what we currently are using, I believe that that's being achieved. We've sold merchandise in every state. We've sold merchandise in, I think it's 6 or 7 countries around the world at this point. So it is getting out there, and it is something that we hope people continue to talk about. And I like to use the example of, like, I want someone in California wearing a burger on their shirt or chip on their chest, and someone would be like, what is that? And that person say, oh, this is the Hub City Spartanburgers, a minor league baseball team in South Carolina. And that's really part of minor league baseball, is creating that conversation and building the community. And we always looked at this brand as an opportunity to do that. So we didn't want Spartan Burgers to, as a name, because it had been used for one short season, to die and never have that opportunity. So we brought it back to life.
Well, and we haven't mentioned this yet. Obviously, this team has, at the time of this recording, not seen the light of day yet. You were just getting ready to enter into the your first season, but it's been, almost a full year since the brand dropped. How's it been received? And do you have a count of how many states you've sold gear to, that sort of thing?
Yeah. When we announced the name in May, we did a huge block party just on the street, just on the side of the where the ballpark's being built, which we'll move into the ballpark here next week and start playing baseball in early April. But when we announced the name, yeah, there was mixed reviews. I think there always is. And if you're not getting mixed reviews, I think you're probably being too conservative. If you're really trying to get the brand out there, everyone has an opinion on what a name should be, and everyone's opinion varies in their knowledge of what are you really trying to achieve. And for us, we really felt that this brand achieved the personality that we look to create for our fans, and that's bringing smiles and laughs. And when I go and do speaking engagements and say, like, Spartan Burgers, you sometimes, the first time I say it, you hear chuckles in the crowd, and that's what we want. We want there to be a reaction, because if there's not a reaction, then it just means, like, people don't care.
Yeah.
So seeing the negative comments, seeing the positive comments, letting them hash it out. And we had some fun with that in social media. If you look back at the comment sections right after we posted the name, we went back and forth with people and had some fun. But I do believe locally, everyone's really excited about what's being created here in Spartanburg, both with the ballpark and with the team, and are have received the name very well. And when it comes to actually selling merchandise and looking at it from a business and a revenue generating opportunity, it's done everything and more that we had hoped for. We've sold t-shirts and hats in every single state across the country. So all 50 states. We've sold merchandise in China, Japan, Germany, Canada, Mexico. I think there's a couple other just random countries out there that you wouldn't think of. Somehow there's a connection to us or someone that enjoys it, or maybe they just love cheeseburgers. But it really is expansive. And again, this is all part of creating that conversation and tying people back to Hub City, back to Spartanburg. And in a way, yes, is it marketing for us as a team and a brand? Yes, but at the same time, it's also a marketing component for the city of Spartanburg and the upstate of South Carolina, which is a huge component for us as being an economic driver for the community.
Tyson, this is a lot of fun. I always do this, kept you later than I meant to. Where can people find the Spartan Burgers online on social media? And if you're on social media, where can people find you?
Yep. HubCitySpartanburgers.com is the best place to find all things Spartan Burgers related. You can also follow us on all social media platforms at Hub City Spartan Burgers. And then myself, Tyson Jeffers, I'm pretty much only on Instagram. I've given up on Facebook and never had X or Twitter, whichever one you call it.
Well, go find Tyson. Go find the Spartan Burgers online. This is a lot of fun. Best of luck with your first ever opening day for the Hub City Spartan Burgers. It'll be fun to follow this journey, and I can't wait to see all the new merch that pops up on the store here in a couple weeks.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you, Tyson. It's been fun. All right, everyone, welcome back. It is such a pleasure to have Dan Simon as a regular on the Baseball by Design podcast. You know that he's here every week with his Studio Simon Stumpers, but every so often we cover a brand that Dan Simon has created. And I say every so often, Dan Simon has created a lot of minor league baseball brands. This week, we are talking about the Hub City Spartanburgers, another Dan Simon creation. Dan, I'm getting ahead of myself. Good morning. Hello, how are you?
Hello to you, Paul Caputo. I am fantastic. Thank you. I realize so we're kind of dating this. Well, baseball season has begun. We won't say where we are with that. And there have been, frankly, some really cool things that have happened so far. And I've really been enjoying the start of baseball season and the fact that baseball's back. It's nice that it's back. It's like every day is a sunshiny day, even when it's raining, because there's baseball somewhere.
We are recording this about a week before it drops, exactly a week before it drops. So we can say right now that at the time of this recording, the Dodgers are undefeated, the Padres are undefeated, and the Atlanta Braves are winless at 0-5, which is that's a shocking start for Atlanta to be 0-5. But you know, it's early. We'll look back on this and chuckle, I'm sure, by the time the All-Star break rolls around. This will all feel so far away. Dan, here it is. The baseball season is upon us. The Hub City Spartan Burgers are playing. They've got this great fun brand with lots of alternates. My favorite is the pickle chip. I love the pickle chip character. Were you hungry while you were creating this brand?
Uh, if there's one thing I love, it's a good burger. So yeah, it's actually interesting. I guess I've done a number of food identities now, and we all know because of alternate identities, there are scads of food themed identities out there. In addition to a couple of teams, Spartan Burgers and Montgomery Biscuits, whose main identity is named after food. But yeah, when you're working on a food identity, you can't not think of food. So yeah, it was yeah, made me think about burgers were on the mind for sure.
I haven't even had breakfast yet as we sit here early in the morning recording this. and I'm looking at these hamburger brands. There's a pickle, there's a spatula, there's a fully complete burger. How come there's no slice of cheese logo? I would have thought a slice of cheese or like a tomato slice. Where are the rest of the condiments in this brand?
You know what? I did think about doing a slice of tomato, but when you look at a slice of a tomato, it's a very busy surface. It has a very busy surface, really hard to simplify down to make it a good logo. I was doing a logo when I first moved to Louisville for something called the Papa John's 10K. It's actually a professional race. And then they do a kids fun run. And for that kids fun run, they wanted a second logo that was kid friendly. Now, this was 23 years ago that I did this work. And for that fun run, I think we did a piece of pepperoni. Trying to think, I think it was two or three things, and one of them was a tomato. Okay, so a full tomato, easy to
Yeah.
do a character out of. Slice of tomato, not so much.
I once tried to create a logo out of a guitar pick for a 5K race, and it ended up looking like a human heart. And this is how come I talk about logos instead of designing logos. All right, let's delve into your process here. That's what I really want to talk about here because there are a lot of sort of cool influences. It's not just a cheeseburger. It's a reference to the fact that this is a place that is famous for a specific kind of restaurant and has a certain feel about it. So you did some work with sort of like neon signage and specific typography, and it's more than just this is a logo based on a hamburger. What were the considerations that you had approaching this? What were you trying to achieve with this primary logo that has like the neon sign and the ancillary logos that support it?
Well, obviously, part of it, well, I shouldn't say obviously, because I suppose you can do a burger themed identity that doesn't feature a burger. There could be other things, other ways of doing that. That the primary logo, which includes the burger, also has the signage to which you were referring. And frankly, you could have done a primary logo or a whole identity like that featured that aspect of burger joints. Matter of fact, the Jersey Diners identity that I believe you talked about on one of your episodes. Yes, you're nodding
I
affirmatively,
am.
so
For the
you did
listener at
mention.
home, I am doing this with my head.
Okay. And now there is a coffee mug, there is a steak and egg, something else food related, a pancake or a waffle.
Excuse me, Dan. State and egg.
Oh, right, 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 right. Well, it is a steak, but it's shaped like the state of New Jersey. But the primary logo for that, if there is one, it might just be the word mark, doesn't feature any food. It looks like a diner sign. So you could do that one. But I guess if you're called the Spartan Burgers, probably a pretty good idea to include a burger in the logo suite. So the considerations there were, what is the burger joint aesthetic? One of it is the signage and a certain kind of lettering. Not every burger joint has the type of lettering you will see in the word mark that's part of this brand identity. But when you do see it, I would like to think you look at it and you go, yeah, burger joint aesthetic. So that's what we wanted to do, was bring that aesthetic into it as well as the food elements that would be associated with a burger joint. And that's why you've got the cheeseburger, you said spatula, which is what it is, but it's a burger flipper spatula,
Right.
and then the pickle chip. And I guess we could have done a slice of cheese. That actually probably would have been pretty funny.
Well, it's
Uh,
never too late, I mean, down the road, introducing new alternate logos, this is ripe for that opportunity. All right, so these characters are wearing a number of different hats. By my count, There are five different hats represented in the primary logo and the alternate logos. The burger character in one of the alternates is wearing a red cap with the letter S for Spartanburgers. The burger flipper is wearing a blue cap with like a greenish brim with the letter S on it. The pickle chip is wearing a backwards baseball cap with a little red button on top of it, a blue baseball cap with a red button on top of it. There's one logo that I will ask you about in a little bit where let's just say he's wearing a sort of Western style hat. At the beginning of this rundown of all the hats, I mentioned five hats. If you count the logo that looks like it's for a restaurant that says Spartan Burgers and has like a hat as burger bun, that is a fifth hat. And then finally, I'm getting to the hat that appears in the primary logo. He's wearing an engineer's cap. And so far as I can tell, and correct me if I'm wrong, that is the only reference visually to the fact that Hub City, the reasoning for a Hub City has to do with the fact that there is a railroad history in this town. I'm curious about the fact that all of the ancillary logos sort of focused on the burger or these characters, and that's the only reference to Hub City is that engineer's cap. Obviously, it's hard to get all those elements into a set of logos. How come the railroad industry was not more of a factor in the secondary logos?
Well, actually, there is one other reference. So from a logo standpoint, you're right. The only reference to the railroad is the engineer's cap or hat. I guess it's either.
I think they're interchangeable. I think a cap is probably more specific to like a baseball style cap, whereas a hat is the larger umbrella. But I don't
Okay,
know.
right.
We need an expert.
The engineer's headwear
Ah,
is only from a logo standpoint is only seen in the primary logo. And by the way, I don't know if you've noticed this, there's a version of the burger wearing a baseball cap, and there's a version of him wearing the engineer's headwear. But there is another element in the brand identity system that does reference the railroad and reference it directly. There's an alternate jersey. I think we can talk about this. They're at the time of this episode dropping, they will have played their first game and they might have worn this jersey already. This is not something they're keeping in their hip pocket, but there's an alternate jersey that says Hub City, and it's not a script. Well, yeah, you know what? It's kind of a modern script, not like a baseball script, but it says Hub City, and there is the engineer hat. Stop calling it headwear, Dan. Engineer hat resting on the letter C, and the underlining element coming off the letter Y is a railroad rail. So that the railroad is referenced, but the team is named the Spartan Burgers. Yes, it's the Hub City Spartan Burgers, but just like anything, any team name, when you're called the Durham Bulls, you're probably going to have more bull things in your identity than you're going to have Durham things. So we're referencing the name of the team more. There's more visual references to the name of the team than the geographic designation, the city nickname, Hub City.
it's a good answer, Dan. I accept that answer. It's
You're not calling BS on that answer?
no further questions, at least on that line. Here's a logo. I said we were going to get back to this one. We haven't really discussed it so far on this episode. I referenced a character wearing a Western hat. He's maybe got like a little sheriff's badge on him, and I'm looking at it sort of small on my screen right now. So it's, it has more of a Texas feeling about it, Dan, than it does North Carolina. What's up with this Western character?
That was intentional. The team is a Texas Rangers affiliate, and the general manager, Tyson Jeffers, friend of the podcast, friend of this episode, wanted we ended up doing two similar logos, both featuring this same character, the burger wearing the hat you mentioned, the badge you mentioned, and cowboy boots because he's a Texas Ranger burger.
There you go. They're a Rangers affiliate. Okay. The last one I want to ask you about, Dan, is just because it is so different visually from the others. You've got these adorable characters, and they really are fun. I haven't said it already on this episode, Dan. I really like this brand. Like this is one where I absolutely want to get myself like the pickle chip character in particular. I want a green shirt with the pickle chip character on it. That's my wish right now. One of the logos that stands out visually to me is I referenced it as looking like the sign for a burger restaurant. It's very illustrative in style, I would say, sort of like a flat illustration of a burger, very stylized burger. The top of the burger bun doubles as a baseball cap with a red brim and a red button. What was the thinking in creating that logo that sort of stylistically is pretty different from the other logos in this set?
The best brand identities I have done are the ones where there was the most collaboration. I would imagine there's some listeners out there that in their mind's eye kind of envision that when a brand identity, sports branding professional is hired to create one of these brand identities, that we just go in there and we do what we want to do, what we think's best, what we think they need. And even though there is a certain element to that in what we do, I prefer a more a more collaborative process than that. And I want to hear what ideas the client might have. Throw them at me. The more the better. Now, sometimes I get things thrown at me and I have to explain that just won't work. But in this case, Tyson Jeffers, general manager, said to me, do you think we can do a logo where the word Spartan Burgers is the burger and then there's like a bun above and below it? And I'm closed my eyes, pictured that in my own mind's eye, and I said, I think I can do that. And so I did that, and it worked out. It is, as you pointed out, stylistically different than really the whole rest of the identity. But even though you don't want the good brand identities are things where it's consistent. You don't want something that sticks out like a sore thumb and you go, where did this come from? But this is stylistically different, but I don't feel that it sticks out like a sore thumb. I think it works very well within the entire overall brand identity system. And there's a phrase I use often, which I think came from my first, probably heard it from my friend Joe Bosak. Most of my best ideas and things like that come from Joe Bosak. So I'm gonna credit him for everything good that I've ever done. And if you're a frequent listener to this podcast, you've heard me mention his name before. He is, I think, one of, if not the best sports branding professional out there. He's also one of my best friends, if not my best friend. So, present company.
Hey, what the hell, Dan?
Okay, so anyway, it's another tool for the toolbox, and the more tools in the toolbox that is used to build your brand identity, I create the brand identity elements, but the team who is using these things, implementing them, employing them, the more tools I can give them for the toolbox, the better brand they can build.
I was saying earlier to Tyson that I really feel like that brand in particular, that mark in particular, could be used for their concession stands, like the places where they are selling burgers. Like that felt like the burger restaurant, the burger concession stand sign to me. So it like fits right in there with the larger branding efforts of the team, the larger system of the team here. So, Dan, you're going to be back later on in this episode, so parting does not have to be such sweet sorrow. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about your work with this brand. It's a really fun one. We'll get to talk more about this brand in a little bit. In the meantime, go find Dan online at studiosimon.net and on Instagram at studio_Simon. Dan, thanks so much. We'll see you in a bit.
See you real soon.
All right, everyone, welcome back. I am so thrilled right now to be talking with Steve Duncan with the one and only, the world famous Beacon Drive-In. You've seen it on TV shows about food. It's the famous burger place in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Steve, hi, how you doing?
Hey, good to talk to you.
I am super psyched to be talking to you. I appreciate you taking time out. I know that you all are very busy there. I tried to call at a time when it wouldn't be too busy. But tell me about the Beacon Drive-In. How did you guys get so famous with, being seen on so many TV shows and represented as the held up as the sort of iconic burger joint in Spartanburg, South Carolina?
Well, you kind of have to know some history on the Beacon. It was next year, actually, we celebrate our 80th birthday. Now, I'm not 80, so it's the Beacon's 80th birthday, but it was opened back in 1946. By a guy named John White, and we are actually on John White Boulevard, so the street's been named after Mr. White. A lot of history, it's been a stumping ground for a lot of politicians through the years. Everybody has a Beacon story. People have been engaged here, met their fiance. I mean, just everybody's got a story.
And what's the signature food item? I mean, obviously it's a burger, but there's a special kind of burger. What do I need to order if I'm coming to the Beacon Drive-In for the first time?
Man, that's a loaded question. But Guy Fieri ordered a Beacon burger aplenty, which I thought was a great choice. But we probably sell a chili cheese aplenty more than anything. But we've got burgers, barbecue, chicken, fish. We on the barbecue side, we got a beef hash. It's outstanding, and it's probably one of the mainstays as well.
The logo for this team has a hamburger character. It's got a spatula. It's got a pickle character. Do you guys? What can you tell me? What are the things if someone's coming to your the Beacon Drive-In there, and they're building their own burger, what are the things they put on it? What's something maybe you wouldn't expect to put on a burger that you guys have?
Well, the Beacon burger, we make a coleslaw that is specifically designed for that burger. Now, I've got a regular coleslaw I use on plates, but it makes it unique. Our barbecue hash, we make a red slaw. It's a barbecue slaw we make here, very unique. We've got a red sauce. We don't give away any recipes. But most people will order like a hash heavy on the red. They really want us to lay that red on it. So, if you haven't come by here and gotten a chili cheese, or if you hadn't come by here and gotten a hash heavy red, you haven't been to Spartanburg.
Have you seen the logo for the new team? They're just getting ready to get started. Does that look anything like a burger for you guys?
Well, I love it. They when the Hub City Spartanburgers, before they had announced the team name, they very privately and secretly came up and filmed a couple short videos here at the Beacon. We let them use our facility. And when they actually announced the team name, they did it via a video downtown live, had a little soiree. I think the name is outstanding. Hub City ties into Spartanburg, has roots in, we were a hub in the railroad days. If you really look at where it says Hub City up under it, you can see the letters are actually on a train rail. And then Spartanburgers, well, if you're from Spartanburg, you are a
Spartanburger, you said it.
And the fact that and it's a burger, and the Beacon sold about as many burgers as McDonald's, I think it ties in very nicely.
That is perfect. Steve, I called you right in the middle of your day. I didn't give you any warning, and you jumped on without any question. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. I am hungry as all get out now. I can't believe I called in the middle of the day like this, and now I got to figure out what to eat because I am starving. I'm way out here in Colorado, but I'm going to make my way to Spartanburg, South Carolina someday to go to the Beacon Drive-In and catch a ball game. Steve, thank you so much. Hey, can people order online, maybe merchandise, that sort of thing? You guys sell anything online, and where can people find you?
Yeah, go to beacondrivein.com. We've got some cool hats and T-shirts and things, and we even deliver via DoorDash and some of the local apps. But I don't know that we'll make it to Colorado.
Well, I may need to get myself a T-shirt then instead. So, Steve, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Guess who's back, everybody? It's my very good friend, Dan Simon of Studio Simon, designer extraordinaire, who you heard from earlier in this episode. He created this Hub City Spartanburgers brand. Now we've got a Studio Simon Stumper trivia question about this brand. Dan, good morning. Hello, how are you?
I am still fantastic. How can I not be when I'm on the Baseball by Design podcast?
Here we are talking about your Hub City Spartanburgers. This is a fun one. We just got to chat a little bit with real live restaurateurs. Now we're back for a trivia question. I'm hoping it has something to do with pickle chips. In your mind, Dan, when you designed that pickle chip, was it a dill pickle or a bread and butter pickle?
It's a really good question because I just thought of it as a burger pickle. I love pickles.
Yeah, me too.
One of my favorite things in the world.
Yeah.
And they're especially good on burgers
Yeah.
and sub sandwiches.
Yeah.
But I don't know what kind come on burgers. I gotta believe they're dill pickles.
That's what I
Or
would
maybe why am I making that assumption? I don't know.
I don't know. I prefer a dill pickle, so that's what I am choosing to see. I have the good fortune of the fact that my daughter does not like pickles, which means that every time we go out for food and there's pickles involved, I get extra pickles.
Yeah, same thing. My wife, I can't say she does not like pickles, but oftentimes if we're somewhere and she gets a pickle with her whatever,
Yeah.
I get to eat it. So yeah, you and me both. Yeah.
All right. Well,
Okay.
Dan, what do you have for us?
Well, we don't have pickle chips
Okay.
in the question. What we do have is Bergs. They're with baseball now back in Spartanburg. Your Philadelphia Phillies played in Spartanburg, the Spartanburg Phillies. And there have been other teams. You know what? When we were thinking about what we were going to name this team, and I was doing my research, Spartanburgers was always on the table, but the client wanted to see what else was, what other possibilities there were. So in my research, one of the things that I determined was there used to be a team called the Spartanburg Peaches because South Carolina is a larger producer of peaches than Georgia, but everyone associates peaches with Georgia for whatever reason other than it's called the Peach State and Ty Cobb was the Georgia peach, et cetera, et cetera. But more peaches are grown in South Carolina than in Georgia.
They could have been the Spartanburg Freestones. And then the Freestones and the Clingstones would have had a huge rivalry.
The idea for Clingstones and Freestones originated with Spartanburg.
Wow.
Because I was doing that research and learned more about peaches than I knew before going into that. So that was the genesis of what ended up being the Clingstones.
This is some real inside baseball right here. This is why we do the podcast.
Yeah. So it's kind of you know what it's like? It's like, Paul, you have talked to me about things that end up on the cutting room floor that don't end up getting used. And why don't you want to see those? They're always fun to see the what ifs, but I don't show most of that stuff. I won't show something if there's a chance I might use it, because just because something doesn't get chosen doesn't mean it wasn't a good idea or a good design. Sometimes I can say unequivocally that some of the stuff that's still on my cutting room floor is better than the stuff the team ultimately went with. There's some really good stuff there. And sometimes that might be a team name. And that was the case with Clingstones and Freestones. And to be honest, I don't remember if I presented both of those when we were working with Spartanburg, but I know it was at least one of them. But anyway, what we're going to talk about is that baseball is back in Spartanburg. And that now gives us 4 teams in affiliated minor league baseball playing in a burg city. Now, our question is going to relate to that, but I want to ask you off the top of your head, how many of the other 3 can you name?
Off the top of my head, Harrisburg Senators is the only one that I can think of right away. I'm
Okay,
sure I'll be
well,
annoyed when I hear the other 2.
okay. Well, you're going to hear the other 2 in as possible answers to the question.
Okay.
So let's get to it then. So the population of Spartanburg, the city of which this episode was featured in this episode, the population of Spartanburg is around 40,000 people. So our studio Simon Stumper today asks, which of the other 3 burg cities in minor league baseball has the largest population? And I will say that population is 30,000 more residents than the next most populated burg city. Okay.
Okay.
So is it A, Fredericksburg,
Oh, yeah.
Virginia, home of the Fredericksburg Nationals? B, the one you mentioned, the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Harrisburg Senators? Or C, Lynchburg, Virginia, home of the Lynchburg Hillcats?
So Harrisburg is not known for its population. It's in the middle of the state. It's the capital of Pennsylvania, hence the senator's name. Lynchburg, I think, is a college town, so it might have a bunch of people if you count them. Fredericksburg, how close is Fredericksburg to DC? Maybe it's not. Huh. Dan, I don't have an immediate guess here. Yeah, I keep changing my mind as I go to answer the question. I guess I'm going to have to settle on one here, Dan. I'm going to say, because it is a capital, I'm going to go Harrisburg.
I've said often with regard to the stumpers that I'm not trying to stump you, but one of the reasons I did this stumper is because I think that's where most people would have gone, because it's the capital of the state in which it is located. That's what I would have guessed if I didn't know these numbers. That unfortunately is not the correct answer. You were going the right way when I thought you were going to lock that one off the list of the possible correct answers.
Before you tell me the correct answer, Dan, I will say that I talked myself out of Fredericksburg.
Well, you were right to talk yourself out of Fredericksburg.
It was Lynchburg. Okay.
That has the smallest population at 30,000.
Okay. All right.
But Lynchburg, you're correct. It is a college town. Yeah. You've got Lynchburg University. You've got Randolph College, I think, and I'm not sure about this. Liberty University may be there. And then there's also, even though there's a University of Lynchburg, there's apparently also Virginia University of Lynchburg. I wonder if I don't think that's the same thing. Isn't that odd? But anyway, yes, it's a college town. Not only is it a college town, but when my son went to college, he went to the University of Virginia, played on the club baseball team there. And when my wife and I were visiting him one weekend, we went to see him play at Lynchburg at their stadium, the college stadium. Very nice college stadium. So anyway, the correct answer is Lynchburg. They have a population of give or take 80,000. Harrisburg, 50,000. Fredericksburg, 30,000. And as I mentioned before, Spartanburg, 40,000. So Lynchburg's a pretty decent sized city.
Well, I can take some solace in the fact that I talked myself out of the worst answer to go with only the second worst answer. So that's that I will take that as a moral victory today. Dan, what fun this is. We've gotten to chat a bunch on this episode. And, as always, I super appreciate all of your time and all that you do. Happy baseball season, Dan. I've already been to 2 regular season baseball games. Went to opening night at the Norfolk Tides, speaking of Virginia. And then over the weekend, I went to an Arizona Diamondbacks Chicago Cubs game with the roof open in Phoenix, which was great. So anyway, Dan, thank you. Appreciate it. See you next week.
See you then.